Did you
Okay.
record or not recording? I can stop recording.
Okay. Yeah, we just started recording.
Okay.
Okay. So to just kind of go over some of those questions that we didn't get recorded, one was about service minutes. Goal is to meet 2 times a week and not worry about the service minutes. Really kind of focus on what the family needs. Of course, you can't be, I would also just adjust it if they need a lot more. And those are questions, those are things that you really need to talk to the program specialist or to me about. Because if a family is needing some mental health resources or other things like that, we can refer them to other sources. But if it's just about your work with them, you know, like I said, 2 times a week and just kind of adjust those as needed. And some families, you may not even be able to get that 2 times a week in, but that's the goal. PWNs, it should be posted to the website. Program specialists will have copies, and I will make sure that program specialists and leads send those out to you all so you can share them with families. Let's see. Please confirm, are we still putting in progress reports for IEP objectives for Q3? Yes, we are. And someone asked me before, I actually have been receiving other emails, you would really put the progress report up to the last day. And our last day was officially March 13th. Right now, we've been in a school closure mode. Maria says that the PWN is in the district, on the district website. It's under special education, and it's both in Spanish and English. Thank you, Maria. And that's very important to know because we do want to make sure that the families, if they need it in Spanish, that they get it in Spanish. Patricia's asking, do we have means to get translation assistance? Yes. I would ask that you just use the same process that you use when you send, when you need it for IEPs, use that same process. Okay, Cicely, PWN should be posted to the district website. Right, okay. Merle, IEPs, it was shared at the previous office hours that we can hold these virtual with parent permission. Are we still going to get signatures when school is back in session? Would the expectation then be to affirm and attest unsigned for now? So I'm going to say just in terms of what makes the most sense is that if you have to hold an IEP, hold it. If you don't, then I would really encourage us to wait because here's the issue. We have to get the whole team. It has to be a legal IEP. So just like if you were in the brick and mortar where you had your teachers and you had your administrator and you had your related service providers, you would have to coordinate with all of them to be on that virtual call at the same time. And I just feel like right now that's going to be very difficult. So I really would like you to reach out to your program specialist about IEPs that parents are insisting happen right away. And then let's work on those by a case-by-case basis. I think to me what's more important is that we're connecting with families, we're providing some type of support in this new distance learning platform. Patricia said, oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry. There was a question from Patricia. Do we need a PWN for all students?
Yes. So we had talked about that earlier. The PWN is on the district website. Our office actually created a general PWN because this is affecting all of our students with IEPs, and it is on the district website. And I will also have your program specialist send you a copy. Okay. Any other questions that I haven't answered? So how many of you have had an opportunity to look at the special education document in particular? And I think there's something on here where you can you can respond in the chat.
Mm-hmm.
So if you've had an opportunity to look at the special education plan, would you just put yes in the chat? And if you say no, then that lets us know that we need to send that information to you.
There's also another question around IEPs. Okay, let me go back to it. What is the language I should use to know? You see it?
Yeah, what is the language should I use to note that no IEP and where I missed an annual IEP date? Yes. Okay. So a lot of us have missed those IEP dates, and so basically, right now we've missed it because we have had a mandatory shutdown of school. So I think that we would say due to school closure, that would be the best language to use. And remember too, somebody I think asked me about SACE tracking.
Yeah.
So we will be doing a training on SACE tracking, but those of you who are pretty savvy, if you go into SACE and you look under help, you can find a video on how to do it. I went through it, and I'm not the most tech savvy person, and it seemed pretty straightforward. Your program specialists are also willing to support. And yes, there will be a training for SACE tracking. Any other questions that are coming up? Are you talking about a separate SPED letter or SPED section of the distance learning plan? So there's a specific SPED section in the distance learning plan. That's the one I'm talking about. And so case managers have a link. I sent it to all the case managers to send out to their program specialists to send out to the case managers. Is it okay to utilize a Spanish-speaking aide on a conference call to a parent? That gets very tricky. And the reason I'm saying that, we do have actual translators. People have to qualify to be translators. And so one of our admin techs just pulled up a list of available translators. And so I'll be getting that list out to the program specialists, and they could share that with you. Any other questions? I'm trying to double check and make sure I've covered pretty much everything that people have asked. Someone said, should we put any minutes into SACE tracking for this week if we check in with parents, or do we start that during 413? You know, some people actually started last week. So I would go back and put in whatever time you put in. So it doesn't have to just start 413. Some people actually have been checking in with their families. And so you can go back into SACE tracking and put that information in.
Another question is from Heather, is the 2-week contact for related service providers too? I have students I see once a week or less. Is that case okay to contact less than twice a week depending on need? Yes, I would say. Once again, that's where you use that judgment call. And for some of our families, especially some of our medically fragile families, it's hard to take time to even probably have these calls when you're trying to be at home taking care of your child. So if you're already doing once a week, I would just check in with the family and just, make that agreement. We're going to have flexibility here. I just want everyone to know that we're going to have flexibility. We're in new territory. Part of the PWN is giving us the opportunity to have flexibility. I've had a couple of people emailing me too about, I'm concerned that kids are going to regress. Well, let's be real. Kids will probably regress. And so we will be looking at
as a department what comp ed is going to look like, and it would be determined on a case-by-case basis.
Another question is, does a check-in have to happen with parent through a phone call, or can it be with the student through an online platform or through chat?
Yes, I think use whatever is comfortable. I want to say for sure for the parent and for the child. So if you're working with older students, and I would say students that are RSP, you know, your check-in may be just with them through Google Classroom or Zoom or whatever platform that is being used. Now, if you're talking to, like, for example, my son's teacher, my son is in the ESN class at De Anza High School. She has to contact me. So she sends me messages, and she also created a Google Classroom. And so I have to help him go in, check in, see what we're being asked to do, and then the check-in would be with my help as best as I can, considering I'm also working too. Other questions?
There's is logging into SE's a downloadable document in a document library? I'm unfamiliar with that function of SEIS.
SACE. Oh, okay. So is she talking about the SACE tracker?
Yes.
So yes, so Patricia, I'm going to have Donnell work with you on this, but there is a webinar on how to do it in the help section of SACE. But she can also go through the webinar with you and answer any questions specifically. But we are going to have a training as well. And as soon as we know the date of that training, we'll get that out to you. For itinerants, how do we join principal-teacher meetings to know what is happening in those schools? Is there a principal email list? So, Helen, there is a elementary principal list, and there's a secondary principal and vice principal list. So I think if you need to check in specifically with a teacher or a principal, I would just email them and say, hey, please include me in your staff updates. Or if you need to talk to a specific teacher, and that's one of the things, too, that many of our case managers should be doing is collaborating with gen ed teachers, especially, you know, for students who are going to be you're going to be having to put in those accommodations sometimes for the assignments. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, perfect. So, Patricia, I'm glad that you did receive that. And yes, your principals will be sending out information to you. Our goal is to try not to be redundant, but sometimes the program specialist may send you out the same information, but of course with a different lens.
Can I ask a question, please?
Yes.
What about the student?
Identify yourself.
Oh, my name is Laura McFarland, and I work at El Cerrito High School. And maybe this is already listed, and maybe you answered it, but what about the kids that have aids that aren't really able to, like, how's that going to work, please?
So I'll give my own personal example. My son has an aide, and she can't come here. We're shelter in place. So kind of what's happening at the national and at the state level in our state, we are told to social distance. We are told to reduce the times that we're interacting with people. So an aide cannot come to, anyone's house to support them.
Well, I realize that, but can they have a Zoom meeting?
I guess I'm trying to clarify, what are you asking?
Well, are they going to be having Zoom meetings or checking in with the students or working with them to do their work? Or, I mean, it seems like
right now, case managers are doing that work. I will be checking in because we are still, remember, everybody has a union. And so we're still negotiating what people's workload looks like. Your union, teachers union, has agreed to the 2 times a week check-ins, okay? So Teamsters, though, we are still working out what that would look like. And also, too, we also have to recognize, too, that some people may not be able to check in. So I think we have to be aware of that as well. But if you have RSP, checking in with those general ed teachers, collaborating with them, because there's a certain amount of time for prep. If you can do that, that would be great. For those of you who are MMSN and ESN, where you have your self-contained classrooms, then, you know, if we find out that aides can help, then we can talk about what that looks like. But really, at this point, it's the case manager's responsibility to check in 2 times a week. And we'll give you more information if that changes. But that was a good question.
Thanks.
Any other questions?
Can remind suffice for 2 times a week?
I would say that I would say it depends on the family. Once again, let's just look at it. Everyone has an IEP. Individually, if a parent says, this is overwhelming, I can't talk to you 2 times a week, but you can send me a remind message, that's fine. But really, we want to also try to keep that, you know, yes, we're social distancing, but anytime we can be in contact with our parents to do a check-in, because yes, we're trying to do the level of academics that we want to do, but also too, the socio-emotional. That's one thing that I'm really concerned about with many of our families. I'm, as a parent right now, trying to juggle what I'm supposed to do on my job, as well as checking in with my son, and keeping him interested and occupied, you know, during the day. It's hard. It's hard. And so I would just say that if you can, try to check in, yes, related services 2 times a week, but try to check in if you can based on what platform works best for that family. I wouldn't just say, I'm going to check in with every family using Remind. But Remind is good for resource sharing. Any other questions?
Do related services check in twice a week too?
Yes.
And then someone said, how about setting up a Zoom office? I mean, Patricia asked, how about setting up a Zoom office hour and including the DIS staff?
So Patricia, I guess what I'm trying to clarify, in with other related service providers as you wish. I think it's sometimes hard to start putting time limits and specific times on these office hours just for departments, because families may have different check-in times. So I would say reach out to maybe your related service provider, and if that's something that you all could agree to, you're going to do it from like 8:30 to 9 o'clock, a half an hour first thing in the morning, then that would be fine. But I would not centrally want to do something like that, just because everyone's going to be in different places in terms of the times they can check in with their families. Yes, we have created a document that Mr. Berger is updating, and there's going to be, right now there's a lot of documents in it, and so we're trying to organize it so that it makes sense. So, you know, the PWN, just like create folders. And so our goal is to try to get that linked to you all as soon as possible, and your program specialist would share it with you and your department leads. Okay, I just unmuted myself again. Okay, are there other questions? Can I go through? Does everyone know who their program specialists are? I should ask that. I'm hoping everyone should. Okay, good. See some yeses. I should say, who doesn't know who their program specialist is? Maybe that makes the most sense. Your program specialist is going to be really the person for those kind of specific questions. Reach out to them first. If there's something that is beyond something they can ask, they will for sure email or call me. Also, too, when you look in the special ed document, there's going to be what we call helplines. I'm the helpline for curriculum, and I'm also the helpline for nurses and LVNs. Okay, I keep getting muted. So we will have that opportunity. You'll have an opportunity to get your question answered. And if it's something we don't know, we're going to check into it. Like I said, this is all uncharted territory. I feel like the new normal, and we're just doing the best that we can. And I just don't want people to be stressed out. Let's just do the best that we can for our families. And also remember to do the best that you can for yourself. Okay, so I'm looking at Suzanne. I'm wondering it might be best to have, okay, so her question is for students who have a lot of services. I'm wondering if it might be best to have case managers only check in as long as we have service providers are in touch with case managers. Yeah, so guess what? That's like a specific question. So I really check in with your case manager and you guys make that decision. I trust that you all can make that decision because many times, Suzanne, you know the families, right? Having 5 or 6 calls, that may be a lot for people. So really check in with your case manager and you guys come up with a game plan about that. Helen, are there more times planned to get into PVHS and other high schools to get needed equipment for staff and preparing for students? I know that I was on the principal call earlier and Jessica's on here, so Jessica, chime in if you can. But I'm thinking they're looking at Friday as a time to go in to schools, and that is still being planned out because remember, we're shelter in place. We should be practicing this social distancing, and right now we're just trying to make sure that people are kept safe. Does that sound about right, Jessica? Is that what you heard on that call? Jessica, unmute yourself. I can't hear you. So push your mic. There should be at the bottom when you push your mic. Oh. Okay, Jessica can't unmute, but Jessica, maybe you can type it into the chat box. Oh, can you hear? Can you? Oh, okay. Oh, she said yes. Okay. So yes, on Friday, they're trying to work to have a time where people can come in. It'll be similar to like they did before, but really, like I said, focusing on those social distancing guidelines. And I would recommend people knowing what they want to go get it, and then leave. So Patricia says she's created a class website with quite a few links. She would be happy to share that. And she just put it in the link in the chat box. Jessica just confirmed, yes, they said that Friday will most likely be a day for families and teachers to come to site. So one of the things, too, I can tell you I would like for you all to do is to make sure that you get the survey just to find out what your families have. We're trying to secure more, hotspots. Most students should have gone home with their tablets or their device. I know my son did on the Friday. That was the last day. He came home with his device, also with the charger. But I know some people may not have been able to get those, or maybe a student was absent. There is a document, and Alfred or Maria, could you guys put in the link for the document where people can, if there's some things that need to be delivered to the home, we're trying to still figure that process out. Can you put that link into the chat? So the goal is to try to make sure that all of our students have what they need at home, if it's equipment, if it's a device. Hotspots, like I said, are right now, we're finding that we have a lot of families in a certain area in our district that don't have hotspots. And so the IT department, they're working with Ed Fund to secure funding to purchase more hotspots and to get hotspots donated. Comcast has some type of deal where it's $9.99, but that at this point, that may be a lot. Oh no, there is a survey, Kendra, so you shouldn't have to access the survey. I think a survey was created, so I will find that link out and make sure that the program specialists send that to you. Okay, are there any other questions? Will the PD for remote IEP meeting guidelines be held this week? That's the goal, Lisa. I'll be talking to Mr. Berger, but yeah, that is the goal, to try to get that meeting happening this week. Our goal is to not try to bother people during spring break, because our spring break is the following week. So to do the SAFE tracking training, and then to do that PD for the IEPs remotely, trying to get all that done this week. Okay, Maria just put in the chat box the link for the equipment. And that link for the equipment, that's just, you can fill that out if, like I said, you talk to a family and they say, hey, wasn't there the last day, I didn't get my child's tablet, or my child doesn't have a tablet, or I need a hotspot, or I need a piece of equipment that was left at the school. So that's what that link is for. Any other questions? Okay, so we're at 1:03, so I'm going to stop because there are other things that I know you all want to do for the PD, on that PD calendar that was sent out. I know Water has some trainings. I really, those teachers that are ESN teachers, I really encourage you to participate in those. And once again, take care of yourselves, because if you're no good, you won't be any good to anybody else. So thank you all, and no question is a dumb question. Check in with your program specialist first. They'll get it to me if we can't answer it. And of course, I'm taking emails as well. Okay, thank you all.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Cicely, I'm going to stay on to just make sure we got everybody's questions answered.
Okay, and I also copied the chat onto a document.
Oh, perfect.
So I don't know where to put that yet. I think it's going to be in notes, but I need to. Let me stop the recording too.
Okay.
Can I ask another question?
Yes, before I stop recording, go for it.
My name's Laura McFarland again. So you said we have to contact all the families twice a week? And that's in different formats, like a meeting or an email or a phone conversation, or is that what you said?
Yes. Yes. And like I said, too, it's just like it's individualized, right? So if a parent says, If you say, hey, my goal is to contact you 2 times a week, I'm going to call at 10 o'clock 2 times a week on Tuesday and Thursday. If a parent says that's too much, I can only talk to you 1 time a week, then you note that and you do that, and you do it through a phone call, Zoom, Google Hangout, whatever works best for you and that family.
Okay. And so there's not necessarily a time limit on that contact. It's more based on what the family's need is.
Yes. And, sometimes too, you may need to spend a little bit more time with one family, whereas another family is like, hey, we got it. We got this, the child's assignments. We're good. They sometimes too, because I know you do, you have full inclusion. They may need some of those accommodations. And so that's where I kind of really see you really checking in with the parent to make sure that they're getting those accommodations. Or if a parent tells you, hey, this assignment is too much, and then you working with that general ed teacher to, put in those scaffolds or, even modify the assignment to some extent. Not change the assignment, but modify it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Are there any other questions before she stops recording?
Well, and then there's going to be on the SACE under each student, there's going to be a location that you're adding where we log that, like what the communication was and what our meeting times are. Is that true?
Yeah.
Okay. So it'll probably be pretty obvious, right?
Yeah, and you're gonna get more training because like I said, I'm not the SAFE expert, so I really want her to monitor that. But right now, you can just go on and check out the webinar and see what you can get from that.
Okay, all right. I'll look for when that webinar is. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. No. Okay. Thank you.